Imagine this. You see a headline that says, inflation hits 3%. If you're in New York, you panic. The Fed is rushing to raise rates. But if you're in Lima or Buenos Aires, a 3% inflation rate might prompt a street party. It would be celebrated as a historic victory. Why? Why does the exact same economic number mean crisis in one place and cause for celebration in another?
That is the absolute perfect hook, because it immediately highlights that we are talking about two completely different animals, even though we use the same word, inflation. It's a financial paradox that touches every single person's pocket every day. It's the silent thief of your savings.
Welcome back to Global Finance Unpacked. I'm your host, and today we are tackling the economic challenge of the century, the deep, fundamental divide between how inflation operates in the United States versus the persistent, chronic reality of inflation across much of Latin America. And with me today is my favorite economic expert, B. B, great to have you.
It's always a pleasure, And you're right, this isn't just an academic exercise. We're talking about stability, planning, and ultimately financial freedom. My promise to our listeners is simple. By the end of this conversation, you will understand why your economic reality is so different from that of your counterparts in the North, and how to shield your wealth from that constant erosion.
I love that. So let's start at the very top, the diagnosis. When we talk about inflation, we're talking about an economy running a fever. But is it a temporary fever or is it a chronic disease? That seems to be the first and most crucial difference.
Absolutely. And that's where the fever analogy works perfectly. In the U.S., the inflation we saw, especially post-2020, was mostly acute. It was a demand problem. Think of the economy as a busy two-lane highway.
Got it.
Got it. Suddenly, thanks to massive fiscal stimulus checks and near-zero interest rates, we all got brand-new, souped-up cars. Everyone hit the highway at once, flush with cash, wanting to buy things, but the road, our productive capacity, our supply, couldn't handle the speed. Too much money chasing too few goods. That's classic demand-pull inflation. The solution? The Federal Reserve, the Fed, has a clear playbook. Raise the interest rate. Make borrowing expensive. Force some of those cars to pull over. Slow down the velocity.
It's a problem of speed. That makes total sense. They are dealing with an economy that's simply running too hot. I recall seeing data that the personal savings rate in the U.S. shot up during the pandemic, giving households a huge cushion to spend explosively later.
Exactly. And that consumer power drove prices up. Now contrast that with the Latin American scenario. Here, the inflation fever is often chronic. It's not just a traffic jam, The highway itself is crumbling. It's full of potholes, half-built bridges, and the supply trucks can't get through because imported fuel costs a fortune, or there are logistical blockages.
So you're not just dealing with excess demand, you're dealing with fundamental structural flaws. Let's unpack that structural piece. What are the main potholes causing this chronic inflation?
There are three big ones. First, external dependency. Many Latin American economies are highly dependent on importing essential goods, energy, intermediate food components, technology. When the U.S. dollar gets strong or the local currency devalues, the cost of their production immediately skyrockets. That's cost-push inflation.
The farmer who needs dollar-priced fertilizer instantly sees their harvest costs jump.
Precisely. The second is fiscal fragility. Too many governments run chronic deficits and finance them by printing money, what economists call seigniorage. This immediately depreciates the local currency, eroding its value and killing confidence. And the third is internal supply problems, low productivity, inefficient infrastructure, monopolies that keep prices artificially high. Hyperinflation, like the historical case of Venezuela or Argentina, isn't about consumers demanding too much avocado toast. It's about a total, chronic loss of confidence in the state and its currency.
Wow. So in the U.S., inflation is a sign of overheating. In Latin America, it's a symptom of systemic failure. That's a huge distinction.
It is, and it demands a different strategy for protection. If you live in a structurally inflationary environment, saving in the local currency is financial suicide. You have to be aggressive. You need to dollarize your savings or invest in real assets, property, gold, anything with intrinsic value that adjusts to the cost of life, not just pieces of paper the government can print more of.
I love that. So, if the diagnosis is different, the medicine must be different too. When we return, we're going to discuss the institutions fighting this battle, the all-powerful Fed versus the regional central banks, and why their tools have such wildly different effects. Stick around.